Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing fantastically well. It is me, Connor, and we are back with another video today. Yes, it's another one for the One Leeds Fan Channel. Unfortunately, today we would be doing the debrief, but KG is ill. Send him your love and best wishes, everybody. I hope he's on the mend soon. But yeah, I've brought Brownie along with me for this one. We wanted to keep up that Monday content, and today, what we're going to be doing is ranking the Leeds United signings under Victor Orta's tenure. So make sure you stick around till the end. There's a lot to go through, as I'm sure you can imagine. We've researched this, but before I start the video, I want to say that this idea, Brownie mentioned it in the group chat about 3 weeks ago. I thought it was a really, really good idea, but I want to shout out as well the All Stats Aren't We Lads, a great Leeds United podcast. Very, if you're into your analytics and your statistics, go check those guys out. They were the ones who pioneered this idea. It's very, very good. So I'm taking a little bit of inspiration from those guys. I think it's massively important that when you have an idea or you hear something from someone else's channel, you give them credit. You always should do that on YouTube. And that's something I try to do all the time. So quick shout out to the All Stats Aren't We Lads. And without any further ado, Mr. David Brown is in the building. How are you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, it's been a slow week or so on it with no Leeds, but got something to look forward to at the weekend. But yeah, great. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. As I say, it's don't know. I think it's when, I mean, I don't know what it's like where you are, but when you've had a lovely weekend of sun and a lovely week of sun, and then suddenly it's just sort of back to grey over here, and it's like, we just need it. We just need it for a length of time, don't we?
It was nice having a bit of summer, so we'll see it again next year, I'm sure. But yeah, it was nice. I think our emotions have been up and down for a good 5 or 6 weeks. I think it was nice just to have a little. We don't like the international break, but I think it came at a nice time just to let everybody settle down, forget about football for a little bit before we get stuck into the back end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Get well soon, KG. Yeah, KG, as I say, guys, is ill, but he'll be back next week, and we'll be back reviewing the Southampton game, hopefully after a win. But this is going to be a bit of an interactive one as well. I don't really know how it's going to go. Me and Brownie just chewing the fat. There is a lot to get through here, so make sure you stick around until the end. We'll probably be going for about an hour and 20, an hour and a half. So fill your boots, basically, because we're going to be going through the majority, I'll say, not every single one, but the majority of Victor Orta's signings and if it was a success or not. So Victor was hired by Andrea Razzani. How does Bristol Crow say it? Andrea Razzani. In I think it was May 2017. So obviously the 17-18 season is where he started making his acquisitions for the first team. So you guys, we're gonna have a little bit of a rating. I'm gonna rate it out of 10. Brownie's gonna rate it out of 10, and that's going to be based on value. It's going to be based on playing time. It's going to be based on what you thought of the player. Everything in your head that leads you to that mark. So Brownie, without any further ado, we go to 2017. Let me just take you back there, mate. We've got Christensen in charge. We don't really know what on earth is going to happen in that September going on. And Leeds actually started pretty well.
We did, yeah.
But in terms of the transfers, mate, we'll start off with this man. Get it in the comment section below, guys, exactly what you think. But we're going to start from the very top. Pontus Janssen. So obviously Pontus was there before the Christensen era. He was there. I think it was Gary Monk, wasn't it? Brownie who brought him in.
It was.
And yeah, obviously they forged that relationship, Janssen and Carl Bartley. I think when we started playing the ball on the floor a little bit, that's where he was exposed. Obviously had the attitude problems as well, which a lot of Leeds fans believe that he had, including myself a little bit, which might be unfair to some of you guys. But Brownie, what did you make of Pontus Janssen at Leeds? Did you see him as a success? Was it a good signing by Victor Orta?
Yeah, I liked him. Yeah. I was sad to see him go at the time. I was delighted. I'm not a massive Brentford lover, but I was delighted to see Pontus get promoted to the Premier League. I felt like he deserved it. He always wore his heart on his sleeve for me. And the famous Aston Villa goal that came later on in life, where he was the only one trying to stop the goal going in. I think I'd have done exactly the same. He was defend at all costs, wasn't he? And
yeah,
I think he got Leeds, and I think that's why we liked him so much. Yeah, he was a fist pumper for the crowd, and I just think at the time when he came to Leeds, we were in a bit of a rut. We weren't going anywhere. We had nothing to sing and chant about, and he was a proper Leeds United player for me, Pontus Janssen.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think for the value we paid for him, I think we got him from Torino, didn't we, in Italy, and he wasn't really playing out there. I do remember though, Brownie, I don't know if you remember this, but we got him over, and I remember reading something on him having a few problems with the coach. And I know that can happen in football. Obviously, you know, certain owners fall out with certain players all the time. It's happened at Leeds recently, hasn't it? So we understand that. But when he came over, he was just a colossus, wasn't he? Massive at the back. He had that shaved head, didn't he? And then that weird hair, and that developed a
Yeah.
little bit.
I
But
mean,
he sort of became a little bit of a man, didn't he, at Leeds United? I thought he came over as a bit of a boy, but then he developed properly.
yeah, definitely. And he scored some big goals for us as well at some
Huge.
important times. And he just felt, I mean, I haven't felt this secure at the back for a long time, but he just felt when the ball went into the box with him, he was going to head it. And obviously, his song, if you throw a brick at him, he'll head it
Yeah.
something back. He did have that. If it came in, he would head it out. And he was a proper, is old school the right word?
Yeah.
Proper old school defender. I didn't feel comfortable in getting on the ball and marauding out like Ben White and spraying balls all over, but you felt he put his body on the line and head it, which sometimes is what's needed. So for me, I think it was a good signing. I'm sure we'll get on. I'm sure we'll get on to the whole host of bad signings, but for me, that was one of the good ones in that particular season and proved vital in the years that we just kept building on that year, didn't we? We built
Yeah.
and built and built, and he was a big part of that.
Yeah, Chris has said Pontus 8 out of 10 easy, excellent player, brilliant signing. Wish he'd have stayed. I think the only thing is I agree with what Brownie said. I think, to be honest, Chris, that possession-based football. I mean, we saw it. I remember. I don't know if you do, Brownie, but against Brentford down at Griffin Park when he was up against Neil Maupay. I mean, we were trying to play it out from the back under Bielsa, and there would just be mistake after mistake after mistake. And I think ultimately he's able to free his game up a little bit at Brentford. He's able to go long. You know, they work on the set pieces a lot. I don't think they're as meticulous in possession as Leeds United. So I think that style of football suits him a little bit more. But if you are to give him a grade, mate, out of 10, if you're to give Pontus a grade out of 10, like on sort of the factors that we spoke
Yeah, no,
about.
I think I agree. Sorry, I missed who the comment was from, but I'd go around the 8 marker with him, definitely. I
Yeah.
was sad to see him leave. Ironically, you felt like you missed him when he wasn't there, but I remember the first game for Bielsa, the Stoke match, he didn't actually play in that, which is mad. We did win games without him. He wasn't like a Phillips when he misses, we fall to pieces type of thing. We still coped without him, and I think that's probably why it was okay to be phased out. I felt we should have got more for him when we
Yeah.
sold him. That seemed
Yeah.
a weird one when we sold him, but we sold him so cheaply. End of the day, he was a Swedish international. Was it maybe the right time for him to move on? Possibly, but hey, he's still playing in the Premier League. So again, that factors in for us selling him cheaper. But as an overall signing, what he did, I'd agree with that 8, around the 8 mark.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so the next one on the list is, I mean, this is going to be, I won't touch on this one quite yet, but I'll touch on just the one below. Samuel Saiz, Leeds bought him from Huesca in La Liga 2. I believe he came with Alioski as well. 3.15 million. I mean, I'll just go off the bat. I absolutely loved Saiz. I thought he was a brilliant player. But this is a really difficult one, isn't it, Brownie? And everybody get your comments in the section below, because we all know that he wasn't consistent enough for Leeds. I mean, there'd be good games like I remember Bristol City away and we beat him 3-0. He scored twice down there, set Lasogga up as well. And he had these moments of brilliance, didn't he? But it wasn't consistent. But I tell you what, mate, he'd have definitely been an option in the Premier League, wouldn't he?
I feel cheated. I feel cheated with Saiz because he was brilliant. He really was, and he was by far our best player in that period of time. I remember early on in the season when you play the League Cup games early on in the season, he scored a hat-trick. I think he scored a hat-trick, and it was just like, again, we'd been going nowhere fast, and then all of a sudden we had this little blonde lad. Great characteristics for a footballer, by the way, small and blonde. But he just lifted the place a bit. Like he was a young. I'm not putting him in the same era, same bracket, but he was a young Pablo Hernandez for me. That same type of player, and I feel cheated because we could have got so much more from him. If he'd have stayed for a long period of time, I think you're right. I think he would still be around in the Premier League. That's how much quality that he had for me. But ultimately, he just didn't want to be here.
Yeah, and I think
He
as
just
well
didn't.
we've got to bear in mind the Newport incident where he got
Yeah, I was
sent
just.
off.
Yeah,
He got sent off for spitting, and as Town Me says here, he was consistent. I don't think he was consistent. He was consistent-ish, in my opinion, mate. Until that red card, and obviously then as soon as Bielsa came, he was. To be fair, apparently, do you remember it was? We were all talking about attitude, but apparently he had some serious family issues as well, which is why he wanted to go back to Spain.
yeah.
Which none of us know that, so fair play to him if he did have. But you do feel he went off the boil. But I tell you what, Brownie, I'd have loved to have seen Samuel Saiz and Pablo Hernandez together for a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, that was the start of it, wasn't it? Then we played that 4-1-4-1 and what have you, and he was floating around with Pablo, and again, I've said it already. I did feel cheated by, not by him. That's maybe the wrong term, but just
Yeah.
from what we could have got from him. He could have really
Yeah.
been a Leeds player because of how good he was. But yeah, ultimately, like people said in the comments, his attitude just wasn't at Leeds.
Yeah.
His heart, his head just wasn't here, and we
Mm.
didn't really see it for that long. Before
No.
we knew it, he were gone. Which is why I'm disappointed with how it turned out for him, because taking that attitude away from him, which is obviously a big, massive part of football, but just skill factor and what he brought to the team, he used class. He was
Yeah,
he was a quality
top.
footballer. But you flip it around, he's not gone on to do anything anywhere else either, has he?
Mm.
So the attitude question mark has got to be a massive factor of the signing.
Yeah, and I think as well, I think we made a bit of a loss on Saiz as well, which when you're looking at the value, I think he went for a little bit under than what we bought him for, which was a shame as well. And like you said, with regards to Pontus, when it comes to value, I felt maybe we could have got a little bit more, but we still made a profit on Janssen. But Saiz, we lost a little bit. But all right, mate, we'll move on to the next one. And so far, 2 years absent. Out of the league, I think it's more than 2, isn't it? 2 and a bit. You know what I'm going to get to here. Bought from Middlesbrough, 4.5 million. One of the big marquee signings in that. The last time Leeds United bought a central midfielder. Think about that, Brownie. The last time Leeds bought a central midfielder, Adam Forshaw from Middlesbrough. So once again, a lot of mixed feelings there, Brownie. Someone who's come in. I feel like his real proper run has been this season, which when he's been at Leeds for what, four and a bit years, is absolutely mental. What would you say? Would you say this has been a success? What are your overall feelings on that? Everybody in the comment section below, let us know as well.
Firstly, and obviously this is the whole Victor Orta chat, the fact that he was our last centre midfielder signing is a disgrace. And I'm gonna say disgrace because we're talking what's 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
We're in 2022. The fact that he was our last centre midfielder signing is awful. As for Forshaw,
I just need to stop you a second. So you gave 8 for Pontus. I didn't give my rating for Pontus, so I'm lying already. I'll give Pontus a 8 as well. No, I won't. I'll give Pontus a 7.5. I'm going to give Saiz a 6. What are you going to give him?
I can understand why the 6, because I mean that first season he played about 30 games and he got what, 7 or 8 goals, 5 or 6 assists, and then that second season I don't think he scored, and I think that's when it really started to go downhill for him. For Saiz, you could just tell he didn't want to be here, and we made a loss. So I'm going to have to pitch in about a 5 for
5,
Saiz, which is why I feel, again, we're using the word cheated, because he could have easily been an 8 or 9.
100%.
He really could.
100%. So, sorry, mate. You were talking about Forshaw.
Yeah, back to Forshaw. We signed him, what, 4 or 5? It's crazy that he was our last centre midfielder, and that's not on Forshaw, by the way. That's not his fault.
No.
But I think you're right. This season is where we've seen the most of him. Just looking at his figures here, in 1920 he played 7 times. His first season he played 12, and for 4 million over 4 or 5 years, he's played what, 50 games.
Yeah, and I think Brownie, you're right. You have to, and this is what I want to do with this. I don't want to just base it purely on what he's done in the past. What's he played? 15, 16 games. We have to base it on the duration, the length of him being at Leeds United, and what we've been through. Is what you've ultimately got to ask yourself, everybody in the comment section below, was it a good signing? So yeah, go on, Brownie.
Yeah, so I was quickly counting up. He's played 71 league games in what, 4, 5 years?
Yeah.
It's not enough for 4 million. It's not enough, is it?
No.
It's simply not enough. Which you've got to factor in. The injuries, not his fault, but they've happened. obviously he would love to play every game, every minute he can. That
Yeah.
season where we missed out on the playoffs, he was. I think we missed him when he did get injured because he did play that Phillips role, and then Phillips was in there on his own, and I think we became a little bit more open when he wasn't in there. And I'm looking forward to seeing Forshaw in that team in the Premier League with Phillips. I think it's too much for him on his own. I really do. But with Phillips next to him, I think it could help Forshaw.
I think Lucas makes a good point as well. It was a pretty massive fee at the time for his level, because you think, Brownie, if you have just started being a Leeds United fan, you've not been exposed to the horror. But in 2017-18, when Leeds were languishing in 13th, 14th place in the Championship, nigh on £5 million was a lot of money, wasn't it, Brownie?
Oh, it was unheard of.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the last time we spent that much money was when we were back in the Premier League, like 17, 18 years ago. It was unheard of, but it was the start of, and I mean, we'll get on to the next ones, but it was the start of 4 million there, the Kemar roof, the Bamford, the 7. It was the start of the beginning of where we've got to, for sure. But there's no pun intended, for sure. But rating for Forshaw, it's going to have to be a low one for me. I do like him. He's just not played enough. He really hasn't played enough for the money. So it is going to be a 4 or 5. Like I say, it's not his fault that he's been injured. But if you think of the amount of times we've missed, and I'll flip it round. I'll pin it on Orta, actually, or whoever's making the signings. Why is he our last centre midfielder signing? It's a shambles.
As Russ says here, for a club our stature, especially now back in the Premier League, to not have a 10-goal season plus Cam is shambolic.
Yeah,
but I think Brownie, I think you look at Aston Villa, similar sort of club size to us, and you look at the amount of central midfield bodies they've had in the past 5 years. When you're comparing that to Leeds, it's nuts.
But it is, and that is right. Is Russ? It is a shambles, and I think we had this discussion after the Leicester game away when Forshaw was dropped, and I was walking to the ground and I was thinking, well, he's a centre midfielder who doesn't score, he doesn't assist, and he isn't protecting the back four because we've conceded 60 goals. So what is he bringing to the team? Which is why I made my earlier point where I'm looking forward to him being sat there with Phillips, so he's not doing it all on his own.
If you were to give him a rating?
Well, seeing as though you were giving halves, I'll go 4.5. 4.5, middle of the road, just purely because of his injury record. 70 games in 4 or 5 seasons, it's just not enough. But I do think he should have had help with him, which isn't on Forshaw, it's on Orta. But yeah, what about you? Where would you prefer Forshaw in?
Yeah, I think you make a lot of really good points. There's a lot of really good points in the chat as well. And Graham's saying he's not the last CM signing. We have Bates in. So, well, I mean, he's the last first team signing, isn't he? Bate wasn't signed to be a first temer.
Just on Bate, sorry to interrupt, Connor. Just on Bate, he's been playing because we haven't signed any other.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. I think like El says here, Forshaw's done brilliant to come back, and he's play like he has done. He deserves a 6. I think if I'm to give him a rating, I think what he's done when he's come back, he's been really, really decent. It's not any fault of his own, but the injuries he's been here 4.5 years. We've barely seen him. So for me, Brownie, I can't really offer him anything above a 5.5. I'll give him a 5.5.
I can see why people are hovering around 4 to 6. I can. Yeah. There's been 4s and been 5s and 6. I can see why everybody would say that.
Yeah, Lee's just said, I didn't know we were doing halves. So I tell you what, Brownie, let's move on to the next one, because we've been live for 21 minutes. And think about how many we've got to go. So we've got to narrow this discussion.
Can I just say to the viewers that I think I counted up there was 67 signings that Orta's made. So buckle yourself in.
Next up, Tyler Roberts. Roberts was bought in from West Bromwich Albion for around about 3 million overall. He was brought in when he was 19 as well. You forget how young he is, really, but that's always the argument against him, isn't it? But
just give him a bit of time. Give him a bit of time. Right.
But in terms of value, Brownie, obviously he's been with us in the Premier League for near on 2 years now. He's played with us at sort of the top end. Bielsa clearly loved him. I genuinely believe that as well. I think Bielsa loved his sort of ability to get the ball on the back foot and get the ball from the midfield into attack very, very quickly. I think his touches and his ability to get in that cam spot, and I'm not saying his output's not unbelievable, but his ability to link, if you get what I mean, just that midfield and attack was always quite good. And I think Bielsa liked that. We didn't have many players like that after Pablo went. So I think Tyler was that player who Bielsa sort of saw as that role. But ultimately, Brownie, we always talk about it when it comes to output. It's not been good enough. For me, the good thing is, Brownie, it's 3 million quid. That's how everybody's got to look at it. We've not spent 20 million quid on this kid and he's given us absolutely nothing. So I think it's really harsh to rate him a 1 or a 2 based on that value. I would probably go, based on the value aspect, probably a 5.
His best output was actually his first year.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree.
Which he should be getting better. I mean,
yeah,
I've seen that 8 out of 10 for effort. All footballers should put effort. I see
That's
this.
your job. That's your job.
It is. I see this how he runs around. Well done. I can get him walking his dog out there to run around. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, the professional footballers. I'm finding it really hard because obviously my opinions on Tyler Roberts. Yeah. He says he's a striker. The striker scores goals, and he doesn't. He's had a few injury problems himself as well. But I
think Pellegrino's got it bang on here, and it's quite measured as well. Tyler, great attitude and hard work and endeavour, but ultimately very, very little output. And I think that measured with the price, Brownie, which actually, when you look at it,
it's quite cheap with what he's given. He's played over 100 games for Leeds. Yeah. The price tag I've got no issue with. He's a Welsh international. Hopefully they might qualify for the World Cup, which he'd go to the World Cup. Yeah. Went to the Euros. It's just not for me. I like a player where people in the comments won't like it. It's football. It's a game of opinions.
Go on then. Stop.
But when your highest season of goals is 4,
yeah.
As a strike, it's just not enough. And people, we've had this give him time. How long do you give him? He's had over 100 games, and I think his best season was in that first season. He scored away at Hull. I think he scored a brace at home to Preston.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was at number 9, wasn't he? He did a decent role when Bamford was out. Yeah, he was decent.
The 4-0 win against West Brom, he was brilliant. I think he got man of the match. Yeah. He was unplayable, and you just think, you know what? There is something there, but it's just never kicked on.
Yeah.
I don't, for whatever reason, he's just never kicked on. But I think he is liked around the dressing room. I really do, which I think is important. I think a good dressing room can build your points in itself.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to get above a 3.
3.
I really am. I'm struggling to get above a 3.
I think that's fair. And if I had my time again, I'm not going to flip flop, but I might go to a 4.5. Okay, next one, and this one's really key, everybody. I think, and I know what Brownie's like. I know Brownie's opinion. In my opinion, with this guy, and you know what I'm going to be speaking about, you've got to not base it on who we currently have. You've got to base it on his output for Leeds United. He was signed by Leeds from Lugano for 1.5 million. It is Ezcan Alioski, and I think, Brownie, for the value that we paid for this guy at the time, he was brought in with Saiz. I was one of his biggest critics, Alioski. I really didn't think he was good enough. I thought in the summer we had to replace him. I'd have been really happy with him to be on the bench, and then for us to bring in a really solid replacement. So we've got a really good left back in. I'd say really good, a good left back in Alioski, someone who you can bring off the bench with 10, 15 minutes to go, and then a proper solid left back. And I don't think we've managed to do that. I think Junior Firpo has been a poor signing, and I think that's why a lot of people have their tinted glasses towards Alioski, which I understand. But I think we did ultimately need to replace him. But now we're looking at a situation where we need to replace Firpo, in my opinion. But that's another story. In terms of Ezcan Alioski, Brownie, the moments he gave us, I think he was with Leeds for about 3 to 4 years. Decent output, not great at the back, but we didn't need him as much at the back. Decent going forward, quite versatile. What are your thoughts?
At 1.5 million, I mean, we'll get onto the main man later on in the video, Rafinha. Yep. But other than that, for the money, I think it's probably one of his best signings. I really do. I think this season we've missed him going forward. and people labelled him. We had this, me and you, we had this debate a few times. He can't defend. We've actually got worse defensively this season. We've just spoke about Tyler Roberts with the goals. Alioski, his lowest season was a 5. That's more than Roberts' best season, and he was playing left back. I think he was perfect for Bielsa because I thought he had an unbelievable engine. Macedonia, he plays as a left wing back. He bombs up and down all the time. I mean, I'm looking at his first 2 seasons. He got 12 goal contributions in both seasons. And I think we've really missed that. I think we've really missed that. I think in the early days, I think he played higher. I think he did. He played higher up alongside Saiz and that. But I really do think that you can't go any lower than a 7.58 for Alioski. I really don't. I'd probably go to an 8.5. I'll probably change my mind when I hear other names. But other than Rafinha, for 1.5 million, I'm not sure what else can beat him.
No, I agree. Yeah, I would probably give, and we'll move on from Gianni, but I will give him value for money. And as Brownie says, his goal contributions, I don't think he was great at in defense, but I think overall, I would probably give him an 8. Yeah, I'd definitely give him an 8.
Just lastly on Alioski to finish off, he was never injured either. Looking at this, the first season he played 42, second season he played 44. In that Premier League season, he played 36. He was reliable as well.
Yeah,
he never missed games. So yeah, for value for money, I think he was one of Orta's better signings for me.
Okay, so the Polish wonder kid, he was not favoured when he first came in by Thomas Christiansen. He was sent on loan to FC20 in Netherlands, and it was a bit of a weird one because when we'd see him playing for Leeds and it wasn't a lot, but he'd always be very, very good on the ball. I remember seeing him away at Cardiff and thought, he got mullered out there by I think it was Gunnarsson. I can't quite remember, and he wasn't great in that game. And I think that's when Christiansen sent him on loan. But overall, when I watched Click, even before he was sent out on loan, he was very technical on the ball. I think it was Burnley. It might have been Burnley in the cup where he was brilliant. But then he was sent out on loan. He came back. Obviously, it's perfect for him. Bielsa came in and Bielsa molded him into the player that he was. But once again, Brownie, if we're talking about Alioski, Matty's Click 1.5 million. It looks like another absolute bargain, doesn't it?
It really does. And obviously, Orta's biggest golden nugget was Bielsa. Both of them, Click and Alioski, would they be the players they are without Bielsa?
No.
For me, Click wasn't. Click was another Lawrence de Bock before Bielsa came in. He played 4 times and got shipped out. That's the route. That's the path Click could have gone on for Leeds. Bielsa turned him into a Poland international, which obviously Bielsa's turned loads of players into international. But again, Orta brought Bielsa in, and at the end of the day, Orta's job is just to bring the players in. It's up to the coach to make them better. But Click definitely falls onto that pile of he'd have probably been a really low rating without Bielsa around him. But again, the price, what he's contributed, he has scored a lot of goals in midfield. That 18-19 season, 10 goals, 9 assists. That's the centre midfield quality we need in the Premier League at the minute. Goals and assists, which we don't have.
I almost wish, I've said this to my old man as well, I wish we'd have got Click younger. I wish we'd have got him a little bit younger. If we'd have got him at sort of 22, 23, it'd have been perfect, wouldn't it?
He'd be coming into his peak now, absolutely, yeah. Do I see him being our regular starter next season in the Premier League? Probably not.
No.
But for what he's given to Leeds, you got to hover around the 7.5 bracket, definitely, for me.
All right. Next up, we have... Hold on, I'm just adding this next one, which should be a laugh. I forget some of the players that we brought in. It's absolutely brilliant. So the next one, Lawrence de Bock. And if you're a Leeds fan and you don't know who Lawrence de Bock is, go and do your history. He was bought in for a considerable price. He was brought in at the time for, I believe it was near on 2 million. I don't think Leeds had spent that sort of money on a left back in years. Brought in from Club Bruges, was said to be the next big thing. He was part of the Belgian setup. Anyway, And yeah, he was, I think it was Derby, wasn't it, Brownie? That infamous Derby game where he was absolutely tortured, and unbelievably, he's still on the books. And when you talk about value, when you talk about what we saw on the pitch, we're kind of getting into that downtrodden Leeds player now, where we've gone through a little bit of those elite signings that Orta made.
Yeah.
We've got a couple now where you're turning around and thinking, that was a bad one. I'll get mine off the bat straight away. Loris de Bock is one of the worst footballers I've ever seen. Actually, I didn't give Matt. Did you give Click a rating? What was your rating for Click?
I hovered around 7.5 area, 7.5 for Click.
7.5. Yeah, all right. I'll go with 8. I'll match him with
Yeah,
Alioski.
8. Yeah, 8's fair. I agree with that.
Yeah. But Lawrence de Bock, bought from Club Brugge, straight off the bat for me. Everybody get it in the comment section below. This guy is a 1.5. He was diabolical.
Well, this is, I mean, we've started good. We've started, look, Click, Saiz, Alioski. And we'll get into Orta a bit down the line because there's been a lot of garbage. And you're going to reel off some names. And
yeah.
I go home. I go to as many away games as I can. Lovely. It's just like everybody watching this show, just like you. When I was looking at some of these names, some of them I haven't even heard of. I don't even know who they are. And they've been signed by Leeds United. And I'm sure you will. You'll reel some names off, and there's some people in the comments won't even know who some of these names are, and it's staggering. And like I say, I think I read there was around 67 players that we've signed since Orta's come in, and it's like just chucking players. Some of them are going to be good. If you sign enough, 3 or 4 of them are going to be good, and that's what it felt like. It felt like, right, we'll chuck some mud at a wall, and some of it will stick. And this guy falls into the category of it didn't stick whatsoever, because I've never seen a fullback that can't edit, can't tackle, and can't pass.
I think as well, Brownie.
He's still here.
He was.
That's how bad he is, because we can't get rid of him. Nobody wants him.
Well, I remember he went on loan to Sunderland. They absolutely couldn't stand him either, and that was when Sunderland were in League One. But Brownie, do you know what the staggering thing is, mate? The staggering thing is he'd made over 100 appearances in Belgium. I think it was for Club Brugge as well. Like, staggering how bad this guy was. But let's move on, Brownie. Let's move on. What were you giving this guy? You've not said.
How many games did he play for Leeds?
Good question, mate. A good question. I'm going to say 10 max.
7. 7 games. 7 games.
Oh, I thought you were giving him a 7.
No, he's played 7 games. What did we pay? We paid millions, didn't we? 2 million?
2 million.
We've been paying his wages for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
0. It's a 0. 0.
It's a shocker. Yeah.
You can't form any constructive good points. If you can't find a good point, you can't give him a point.
No. No. All right, mate. So we'll move on to the next one. This guy and the infamous Square It Hadi. Hadi Sacco came to Leeds United. I think it was under the Gary Monk era, wasn't it? And yeah, he came with a little bit of promise. I think he got some. I can't remember. He got maybe like four assists and 2 goals from reading up. I can't quite remember, but he became sort of an impact sub towards the back end. Then Leeds shipped him off when they started getting a little bit more quality in. For me, quite an all right player, a little bit of potential, decent speed, but ultimately not really up to the grade. And let me just check when I'm talking about the fee as well. It looks like we bought him from Sporting B for 1.53 million. So for me, Brownie, when you're looking at that value and what we got from him, I'm probably going to go with a 3 for Hadi Sacco.
Yeah, there's a saying that floats around dressing rooms, and for me, he was a speedboat with no driver.
Yeah. Do you know what I love as well, Brownie? I just love it when there's some people coming in and saying, "Who the hell is that?" It's like you've just not experienced it.
And these were the ones that actually played for Leeds. There's some names that even I don't even know who they are. I thought he'd made some of the names up, to be honest. I thought he was trying to catch me out, but they were actual Leeds signings. But yeah, speedboat, no driver, very quick. That first season, he actually played 38 games. He played quite a lot. But like we've labelled with Tyler Roberts, no end product, he scored 2 in them 38 games. You need more, especially for the fee. Another one that's gone elsewhere, not really done anything. Yeah. 2, 3, poor signing. Poor.
Yep. All right.
But that's
Moving on.
why we were lying off Championship, because these signings just weren't good enough.
Yeah, true. All right, mate. The next one, and you said you didn't remember this one. The next one, which actually cost us a fair bit of money when you're looking at the value. This was another bad one. And I've actually just put Chibiki good signing without the
I
question.
remember that. No, this was one I did know, because he reminded me of a homeless guy.
God.
I remember him coming on at QPR, and I thought like he'd like won a raffle or something.
Yeah. So Pavel Chibiki, obviously we got him for 1.5 million. I believe we got him from, let me just check, Malmo. And this one was a bad one. This was a really, really bad one. What can you remember, mate, from Pavel Chibiki?
The assist at QPR, and other than that,
He got 10 appearances.
It was a bleak time, that era, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember him coming on against QPR, and there was an assist in there, but other than that, there's a reason he only got 10 appearances, isn't there?
Well, Brownie, according to Leeds Live as well, we didn't even recoup a third of the value for him as well. So we got him for 1.5, and we didn't even recoup a third for him. So this was a bad one of the worst ones, I think.
I mean, I think he's attached to a club at the minute.
No, I think we were saying I'm sure he's not allowed to play football because of his gambling. But yeah.
Of course, yeah. Well, I wish he were banned when we had him. We wouldn't have spent that. We wouldn't have spent that money. Yeah, I agree with people in the comments. A 1.5, a 2. That's been generous. He got 7 games. Was it? He said 7, 10 games.
10 games. Yeah.
And you pay millions for him. It's not good enough, is it?
No.
Where would you throw him at?
I'd throw him in the. I could. I'm going to say 0.5. That was a shocking.
I thought you were going to say I'd throw him in the bin.
And that. All right. Next up.
But just before you keep going,
go on.
This is millions mounting up. You've just gone through De Bock. We've gone through Chibiki. There's 3 or 4 million. Forshaw, 4 million.
Yep.
It's not like we didn't spend money and we were still bad.
Yep. And Brownie as well, we're going to touch on everybody, the ones that actually cost Leeds money. And then right at the end of these, we're just going to compartmentalise the free transfers and say, was there anyone who stuck out there for you? Because it'll take forever otherwise. But next one, Brownie, this one also cost us money. J. Roy Grot bought from the, I believe it was the Dutch league, Nemengen, I think they're called. Nek Nemengen, 19 years of age, 1.5 million again. And listen, we bought him clearly with a little bit of understanding that he was going to turn into something. He was let on loan for a couple of seasons, wasn't he? Big man, but once again, J. Roy Grot. I get it, but poor signing again, wasn't it?
Yeah. And again, it's another 1.5 million. These millions are adding up. It's 1.5 here, 2 there. I could get why we splashed out. I think he was involved with the Holland under-21s at the time, or the under-19.
He was,
we signed him, and he was a unit. He looked massive, and you just thought, you know what, in a couple of years he could be a bit of a powerhouse. Couldn't hit a barn door, though, could he?
I think it's when it's quite right when you've said it, and you're looking at like Pavel Chibiki, you're looking at J. Roy Grot, and I know it's difficult because you're in the market, and we remember right at the start, mate, it was all about finding continental European talent. It was all about finding those sorts of players on the cheap. And I guess it is to an extent now, really, because domestic players are so much money. And even the top players in the championship, mate, do you remember that? There'd be like 10 million for some of the best players down there. So we had to go abroad, really. But, you know, when you're looking at 3 million, really, for the combined value of those two, it's not great, is it?
No, it's not. And I remember he did have a good spell in the team. He must have played 15, 20 games of that season he came, and he missed some big chances.
Oh, do you remember this? Do you remember this? His last minute equaliser with Sheff Wednesday, only to lose the game anyway. Oh, I remember that. Awful.
It was a bad time. I feel like Men in Black, Joe, when you press a button and like erase it. I feel like I would do that with that season up until someone came and turned them all to superstars. But there was a lot of rubbish, wasn't there? There really was.
There was, mate. I don't think we can really touch on the next one because we didn't see enough of him. But so I'm going to move on from this. It's Yusechi and Ideguchi. We didn't see enough of him. I think he played like twice for Leeds, and one was in a friendly. We didn't see enough of him, so we're going to move on from him. We spent money on him as well. I think it was 500 grand, but I think Leeds actually made a profit on him, believe it or not. So the next one that we did see quite a lot of, brought with a lot of potential, 23 years of age, centre forward, bought from Chievo for 500 grand, was Caleb Ekuban, who I think we've spoken off air, Brownie. This guy is actually someone who we didn't mind. He had a bit of potential, a lot of energy, a lot of endeavouring, and you just wonder, you know, all those players at that time, if Caleb Ekuban had been there, he had sort of quite a lot of good attributes that Bielsa really could have honed in on.
Yeah, I remember him, I think it was West Brom away, when we got tonked. Was it the season we got done for? I think I might be getting the game on, but it was another one that he missed some good chances. But he did look like, because he was young at the time, it was like, well, we're going back 4 or 5 years. He did seem to have a little bit about him where you thought there was a player there, but we just didn't see it at Leeds. I think he's gone on to play in Turkey, and I think he's now in Italy, and he does score goals. He does. But we're judging it on what he did at Leeds, and just wasn't enough. He did have a good run of games, 20 games. 20 games, 1 goal for a striker, it's not enough. But I do agree with you. We've spoken about other players that have had time, and Tyler Roberts being one of them. He's had all that time. Where would Ekuban be if he'd have had the same amount of time as Tyler Roberts, for example? It's all
you can only judge it on his time at Leeds, and he didn't have a great managerial run, did he? And when you look at Bielsa, he had almost all the little things. I'm not saying he had bags of quality, but there was potential there. There was energy, a little bit of endeavour, and you think to yourself, maybe if he'd have had a season, 6 months to a season, it'd been fascinating to see where he'd been.
But it would. I would have liked to have seen him with Bielsa for sure, but we didn't. 3.5 maybe at best. Similar to J. Roy Grott for me. Had potential, but never saw it at Leeds.
And once again, it's that fee, isn't it? We're talking about 500 grand. It's still a decent amount.
I'm sure you'll sum up all this money at the end of that particular season. But this is mental that this was all in one transfer.
I know, mate. We're only on 2017-18 at the minute. But another one, Halma. Now, Apo Halma, the Finnish centre back. Interesting one, Halma, wasn't it? Because he got a chance, didn't he? Under Bielsa.
He did very well. He came on and he did very. He came on away. It was Barnsley or Sheffield Wednesday or somewhere. It was somewhere. It was a Yorkshire derby, and he did really well.
He did. Yeah, he did. He was. I thought he was a decent. He was obviously sold on to Barnsley, so he was sold on to someone who was in our league as well. So he can't have been that bad. But once again, bought for 500 grand, I believe it was. It didn't really work out for him, Brownie. I'm probably going to go with a 3 for this man.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it's another $500,000 here, $500,000 there, $500,000 for someone who played 4 games. And it's over 100 grand a game, 125 grand a game just to play, and they weren't even being starts either. Some of them will have been sub appearances, and it's just for where we were, that amount of money.
Yeah,
it's stinking.
It's bad, isn't it? It is bad.
Yeah, I agree. 2.5, 3.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get the next one's name spelt right, actually. Have I got it right? Let's have a look. I haven't. But yeah, next one on the list, Brownie, just whilst I'm getting this sorted, in terms of just getting it on screen. I'm sorry, everybody, if I absolutely butchered his name there. Felix Weidveld. Now, this guy was brought in. This one was actually one where I think we all turned around and thought, oh, flipping heck, here we go. He's bought 27 years old, played in the Bundesliga with Werder Bremen. I think Werder Bremen went down that year. But I'll be brutally honest with you. I mean, we got this guy in for 450 grand, and I thought he was appalling. I thought Felix Weidveld was such a bad goalkeeper, so slippy, so unreliable. Do you remember when Bamford stuck 3 past us for Borough?
Middlesbrough, I remember it.
I remember he was the keeper, and it was just like you said about Chibiki. It was like someone had won a competition. He was just absolutely woeful, and we went through such a barren period, didn't we, of keepers like that. And I mean, what did you make of Weidveld, night?
You hit the nail on the head. We went through a bleak period of time of bad goalkeepers.
Yeah.
And he was near the top of that list for sure. And again, it's another, what do you say, 500,000, was it?
Yeah, D's just said here 2017-18 signings, 25.6 million spent in total. Yeah.
On absolute gash. Let's be right. On absolute rubbish. We've built up the top ones. Click Alioski.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, for me, it's just rubbish after rubbish, innit? And
Yeah.
you're right. It was like a polo. You know them sweets with oils in? He was like one of them. It just seemed to just go. Anything just went through him. He couldn't kick it. Couldn't catch.
No, it's a hologram, money. It's a hologram.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I mean, I would give Weidveld for me. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but as a goalkeeper, he's absolutely dreadful.
If we're clutching it, he was a nice guy. Then we're struggling out. Yeah, comments 1, 2 at max, maybe.
Yeah, 100%. So next on the list, anyway. So this is where. So we're out of the money signings now. So we're looking at. We're just going to put all these together. Vernon Anita, Wasim Boy, Andy Lonergan, who I think was brought in and quickly came in and was brought in to sort of help Weidveld in loads of patches. Magic Gomez, Sam Dolby, Jordan Stevens, Cameron Borthwick Jackson, Pierre-Michel Lasogga, and Matthew Pennington were all brought in after all of those signings that we've just mentioned and gone through. So do any of those names stand out to you, Brownie?
It's winding me up a little bit because it's not good enough, is it? We sit here and think, why were we bottom half at Championship with Leeds United? Just listen to them names.
Yeah.
I mean, Awesome and I saw more of him on Instagram than I did in a Leeds kit or training kit. And
yeah, I will say, I don't think he was an unbelievable signing, but I was listening to the All Stats Aren't We chat on this, and they were saying that Pierre-Michel Lasogga actually scored 10 goals in 33, which isn't horrendous. It's not great, but it's not horrendous.
No, it's good. It's a good return.
And he's on loan. He's on loan. So
I remember was it Millwall game where we were losing, had 10 men, and the famous video, put it in the box, and then he rifled one into the bottom corner. He's probably the one that stands out of that list. Which, if he's your best one out of the list, it's a bit.
There's a load of people as well saying. Let me just
that Ben's comment is spot on there.
Zero ambition. Yeah,
it is. It's just chucking a load of players and we'll field a team. We'll just field the team and we'll get through the season.
Should we? Well, that was 17-18. So let's move on to 18-19.
Gail's right. Gail is right.
What's Gail said? Scary memories, yeah, 100%.
Bring out the Men in Black button and erase it all.
It does make you feel a little bit better, though, doesn't it? It does. Okay, so this is the season, obviously, I believe, and it was, yes, it was, and it's top downwards, so it's the highest value on transfer mark, so we'll get from the highest value to the lowest value. First of all, 7.11 million, brought in from Middlesbrough, the age of 24, Mr. Patrick Bamford. Had a horrible season this season, started 6 games, which, listen, we're taking everything into account here. 7 million, scored 17 goals for us in the Championship when we were promoted. The season before that, he was sort of hampered with injury. It was Roof, it was Bamford, it was Roof, it was Bamford. What are your overall thoughts, Brownie, if you're taking that sort of sentiment, if you can, out of it from the promotion season? Good signing or bad signing?
Good. We had many debates before we even did these shows, and I was always a Bamford fan. Always throughout it all. Yeah, there was the season we didn't go up where we should have done. He did miss chances, but he still scored. Still had a good return.
I think you're right. Are you going to say 16, weren't you?
I thought it was around 16 goals. Yeah. He did have a good return. His first season, I think he got 9. You were right. He was in. He was out. He was in. I remember him coming on at Bolton away, I think. Scored. He fitted the system. I always compared him to Firmino at Liverpool. He was our number 9, and we can see this season how badly we've missed him when he's not been there.
Well, I think we all saw the news the other day. I don't know about you, mate, but I saw the news last night. Obviously, if you didn't know, Patrick Bamford's pretty much going to be out for the season. And I think we all saw the news last night, and there was probably a point, if we're being brutally honest, there's a lot of us who'd have taken Kim Roof over Patrick Bamford, even when he was signed for 7 million. But it's got to a point now where you're thinking to yourself, flipping heck, like him being out for the rest of the season, when you saw the improvement in that first half against Norwich, and you saw how awful we were when he went off after the Wolverhampton Wanderers performance, which obviously we won, but when Bamford went off, it all changed. He's absolutely pivotal, isn't he?
The game that stands out for me the most for Patrick Bamford and was West Bromwich Albion away. Everybody wanted Nketiah to start. He was coming on. He was scoring. Why is Nketiah not playing? And obviously Eddie Nketiah is far better than me, far better than he'll ever be. But I was like playing deja vu because I was a small striker and I'd always come on and score. But I knew starting a game was completely different to finishing one. Come the back end of the game's open. It's stretched. There's more space. You can run in behind more. The start of the game, it's more of a battle. And in that West Bromwich Albion away game, which turned out to be Nketiah's last one, we just couldn't get out of our half that first half. There was no hold-up play. There was nothing. There was nobody to take anything in. Yet when Bamford came on at half, he scored, and we should have won that game in the end. And we ended up drawing 1-1. And I think that was a turning point for a lot of people. Was we need Bamford starting all the time. And this season, again, we said it with the Forshaw conversation about it's a disgrace that we've had no other centre forward signing since Forshaw. I'll go one step further. It's diabolical that we've not got another number 9 in the Premier League.
100%.
And this is why when we come to Orta at the end, it's not good enough that we've not got another number 9 on our. We're a Premier League club. We're a Premier League club, and we've got one number 9.
So what would you give him, mate, out of 10?
Bamford, it's got to be around a 7.5, 8. No, I don't know. You know what? I'm going to go on further. 8.5. Purely because he was our number 9 that got us to the Premier League.
Yeah, I think as well, when you look at it and you think, I've held my hands up loads of times, and you'll probably be able to see it on this channel. I was in Nketiah over Bamford at one point. I thought Bamford just couldn't finish his dinner, and actually actually said there is no chance Patrick Bamford fires us to the Premier League, which he did. Which, listen, he proved me wrong. Fantastic, but I think now you look at him, and I think he got 5-6 assists last year. I think you've seen enough of him this year, even when he's come on in spouts, that he still is that difference maker. That when you look at the value, once again, 7 million, he's had an England cap. You know, it's 100% worth the value. So I would agree, Brownie. I'd probably go with an 8. That's what
I do actually think that Rodrigo was brought in to be our number 9, but I think because of how well Bamford did, he couldn't be dropped. He was our focal point. He was our main man. Yeah. I will go full circle on that. And listen, I'm a massive Bamford fan. I think we've seen the best of him.
Yep.
Which will be it's a completely different conversation. It's a conversation for another day. But I think it's horrible because I love Bamford. Absolutely love him. But I think we need to bring another number 9 in because his injury record isn't great. It really isn't. And I think last year might have been a bit of an anomaly with
crowds.
How many games we got out of him, because pre that and post that, he's been very in and out with all the clubs he's been at, which is why he had so many loan spells.
No, you bang on. He's never had a season like last season ever. He's always had. I think he had a really good run with Borough when he scored 18 in a season, I think. And that and last season were the best seasons he's ever had in his career. And he's 28. So you're expecting, like you said, Brown, we'll get onto that in a bit because I think we'll have a conversation about Victor Orta and not getting another striker. But let's move on, mate. Barry Douglas. This was I was heartbroken at this one because, we'd seen what he'd done the season before. And I think it's safe to say Wolves absolutely had our pants down for this one. Even though it was only 3 million, they'd clearly seen that Barry Douglas had taken a little bit of a downturn somehow, because I hadn't seen it. 'Cause in the Championship, he was brilliant. They got to the Premier League, binned him off. and it just didn't work. I think for the value, once again, I know, listen, we all like Barry Douglas, but for me, once again, pal, this is, I mean, he barely featured for Leeds, and the promise that there was for him, I'd probably go with a 2 or a 3, I think.
Yeah, that first game I remember against Stoke, Barry Douglas, and I thought, wow, who have we signed here? Just wasn't consistent enough, was it? Very in and out. It was the life of. He summed up the life of being a Leeds fan for me, because you see a player, and I think it's that weight of the Leeds badge and the expectation and how big a club it is.
Yeah.
You see a player firing at another club, and he comes to Leeds, and it's like, well, why can't he do that for us?
Mm-hmm.
And it had that feeling for me with Douglas, and I think he went through a spell where he kept coming on as a sub as well late on, and we'd concede. Which, I mean, it's not Barry Douglas's fault, but it did. There was a consecutive spell where we kept bringing him on, and just too injury stricken for me with Barry Douglas. Great guy, but my next door neighbour's a great guy. I didn't mean he could do it for Leeds United. We want results. So for me, Douglas, I think I go a little bit higher. I think I go 4.5. It just seemed to.
Yeah, and I think you've also got to put. You've also, Gail's just said, Wolves must hate us and see us coming. They do see us coming with transfers 100%. But let's get on to the next one. So we'll get on to him. For me, one of the worst signings the club has ever made. I mean, we'll get the racism thing to it. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about the off the field incidents, but let's just talk about on the field. The guy was an absolute hype train when he came in. Everyone's talking about his Champions Leagues. Everyone's talking about, his unbelievable stint for Real Madrid. I think he played as well in Spain. I can't remember the club. It'll come to me. Might have been Espanyol. Played for them. Played a decent amount of games. I think it was 2 or 3 years prior. But he'd been sat on the bench ultimately. He was a free transfer. We bought him in. He was 32 years of age. I felt, and you do get this with Orta a little bit, Brownie. I don't know what you think, but he does like his statement signings, doesn't he? You look at your Rodrigos, your Jean-Gavin Augustins, your Kiko Casillas. He does like your statement signings, your out there signings. And, when he came in, the pedigree was great from Kiko Casillas, a starting goalkeeper like that in the Championship, But ultimately, I thought he was absolute. I don't care how many clean sheets he kept, because our defense was unbelievable. In the next couple of seasons, that let's be right. When Kiko Casillas kept all these clean sheets, Leeds were barely conceding shots on goal. Our defense was unbelievable.
I'm sorry, just before I can, because there's been that many signs, I'm just going to put the light on. Because
do it, mate. I thought it was getting a bit dark.
Next week.
Yeah, but everyone in the comment section, I've just seen stuff that Paul Dock says lost as the playoffs, and you bang on. He did. He Kiko Casillas for me in that playoffs chucked everything out the window. And yeah, not for me.
I'll shock people with that, because I think
60K a week, Brownie.
On that playoff shout, for me, Liam Cooper's just got to clear it. I don't care if your keeper comes steaming out, clear it. Go in at half time.
Let me put
the fault for that. They're both at fault for that.
What about the Sheffield United game beforehand in that crunch game when he was coming out like an absolute nutter and got sent off?
I thought Billy Sharp dived, but whatever. Yeah, he gave you all a heart attack. He really did. For me,
I think Brownie, you look at the value as well, mate. You look at the value. Wages, 2.3 million a season.
The wage bill and the price, shocker completely.
Awful.
When he came in that season, I think he was better than Bailey Peacock-Farrell. Let me get that out of the way. I really do, because he was like a popper.
What does that mean?
What? It was an improvement. I'm trying to. It was an improvement that particular season.
But is it an improvement, right? Bailey Peacock-Farrell, you're probably paying about $6,000 a week. Kiko comes in and he's a little bit of an improvement. Plays well against Rotherham away in a 2-1 win, and the rest of it you're paying him as York said there, 2.3 million over 2 years. We're still paying him off now, and I just thought he was.
Yeah, the wage. It was a shocking keeper. I think. He gave me heart attack. Melia gives me heart attacks. We'll get onto him later. I'll shock people with him.
Brentford away.
I still don't feel safe when the ball goes back to the goalkeeper. That's not changed. The price for Kiko and his wages, and they're still paying him now, it's just, again, not good enough.
Joe's
And he
just said
was.
that. There you go, Joe. Like that Volk save, though. There you go. We're paying 2.3 million over 2 seasons for a save against Rotherham.
I think people go overboard with him.
Oh, come on.
Just because he did have howlers, and it's good banter. We all like a bit of a laugh. I think people go a little bit overboard with him. Wasn't good enough for Leeds. He really wasn't. But I do think. I think Meslier has made just as many of howlers, to be honest. I really do.
Yeah, but Meslier.
I really do think Meslier has made just as many howlers as Kiko, but Kiko gets hammered. But
yeah,
we said we won't get into the banning for him. I think we've got to. You don't want people playing for Leeds who do things like that. So I think that comes into the equation as well.
Does.
The price, the racism, everything. Just another bad old signing, wasn't it?
Just let me just shout this out, mate. Quick shout out to Carl McEwen, who's liking the work we're doing. Thank you so much, pal. Really appreciate that. Honestly,
that's why I put the light on. I saw the donation coming. That's why I put the light on.
Henry says, Connor, did you see my PayPal? I haven't, mate, but I will go check. And thank you so much for any donation. Really, really appreciate it. As I said, all goes back into the channel. So thank you so much. Okay, Brownie, we've gone on Kiko. We're giving him a rating yet. What was your rating? You'll give him a 10, won't you?
No, it was a bad old signing, wasn't it? I was just saying that I think we go a little bit overboard with him just because of how funny it was. A 3 at best.
3. All right, I'll go with a 1. Okay, so and then Brownie, we're getting to the cluster again. We've got loan transfers in here. We're talking about the transfer fee originally because that's what we're basing Victor Orta's progression on. So we've got Leif Davis in there from Morecambe under 18s, which I think's been a good signing. Especially if we sell him on to Bournemouth, which that looks like it could be a good deal if they get into the Premier League. Lewis Baker didn't work. Izzy Brown didn't work. Jack Harrison you've got in there, which we'll get onto a little bit later on because Leeds have only bought him this season, haven't they?
Yeah.
And Jamal Blackman, who Leeds killed. So in that sort of bracket, you're probably looking at Leif Davis, who I wouldn't have let go, to be honest, this season. But there you go. But yeah,
again, it's another cluster of signings where it's not great, is it?
No,
there's no ambition. There's nothing. And yes. He brought Bielsa in. If he hadn't have done, what would they do under Christiansen and Darko Milanic, all the other rubbish that we brought in?
Pulling him out now.
Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's very.
Yeah, Henry, thank you, mate.
Like you just said there, the best one out of the lot was Leif Davis.
He was. I still think he is. I still think he could do a job. I like that. I really like Leif Davis. That's just my opinion. Okay, next season. So we're going into the 1920 season, Brownie, and we're going to start with a free transfer because Leeds didn't do much in this window. I don't know if you this whole span. So straight off the bat, we've got right winger, Manchester City under 23s, Premier League 2 was where he's applying his trade. Ian Poveda.
I fell out with a lot of people over this guy.
Not done anything for me, is he you?
He was a Tyler Roberts 2.0 for me.
Yeah. But I guess Brownie, the caveat is we got him on a free transfer, didn't we? Yeah,
absolutely. And listen, nothing against him, nothing against Tyler Roberts. He's a winger that doesn't do anything.
No.
He
had a good game against City, didn't he? And I think that's about it.
Yeah, he came on he got Benjamin Mendy hooked, and he was lively in that. But yeah,
other Benjamin Mendy's are available.
he just, the good part of him, it was a free transfer, wasn't it? It was a free transfer. Do I think we'll see him play for Leeds again? Probably not. I think the comment there from Joe's right. Lightweight. He does look a bit of a machine at the minute now. I've seen a picture of him recently. He looks like he's bulked up. I'm absolutely not having that. Poveda was better than Costa. Nowhere. Not for me. Game of opinions. Has he scored for Leeds?
No, that's why I want a rating and I want to move on.
2.
Yeah, I'd probably just give him a 3 because he's still on the books, isn't he? Who knows? He could come back under a new gaffer, and I guess this can be said for this geezer. Now, he was originally bought on loan, and I honestly, I remember doing a video and on the channel, and I was in a pub in Harrogate, and we just signed him, and honestly, mate, I nearly started screaming with excitement. We'd watch Helder Costa come to Ellen Road and tear us apart for 2 or 3 years in a Wolves side where he was the best player by a country mile. He was unbelievable the season before, and we'd essentially signed Barry Douglas and Helder Costa, who on that left-hand side, I know Costa would play on the right as well, but when he'd move over and play on that left-hand side, he was phenomenal, Helder Costa. He was so good for Wolves. Leeds got him with, initially it was a loan, but I think it was an obligation, wasn't it, to buy him for 15 million. So that's what you're going to have to look at with Helder Costa here. So 15 million quid on him. I think he was all right in the Championship. For me, Brownie, way too lightweight, soft. And when Rafinha came in, Brownie, you saw, and this is harsh, but I think you saw the makings of the man because I think he gave up. I think he just gave up as soon as Rafinha came in.
He's not in Rafinha's bracket for sure, but I think he gets a bit too much slander for me.
Yeah.
That year we went up, he played 43 games.
But 15 million, Brownie.
No,
it's not his fault. It's not his fault.
It's not his fault, and we'll get on to Rodrigo in a bit with the price tag when we get to that year.
It's all about the money.
46 games in a season. He's played 43. And we've gone up as champions. What was
his output, though?
I mean, I'm looking.
Was it decent? And it was all right, wasn't it? It was
eight goal contributions. He played a lot of football that season. We went up.
He did. Yeah.
Then we went into Premier League. He played 22 times in that year. We finished 9th, which again is more than half the games. He's got six goal contributions in that.
Yeah, detail. He said 43 games and less than 10 goals and assists combined, I think, which it's all right. It's not good. It's not good. I can't say that's good, but it's not as
I was surprised. This one, I thought I had something in my head. And then when I actually looked into it, he's actually surprised me a little bit. He played a lot more in the Premier League than I thought. He played 22 times and we finished 9th. For me, I'm looking at around a 5.5 for Helder Costa. The price price is scandalous.
That's not his fault, though, is it?
Middle of the road for Costa. And I think you're absolutely spot on. I think when Rafinha came in, I think he did give up. He knew he wasn't as good as Rafinha. He didn't have that fight to fight for his place. Jack Harrison's Bielsa loved Jack Harrison, so he was never going to drop Jack Harrison to play on that wing. But he's playing for Valencia. He's playing week in, week out for Valencia. So he's not a bad footballer, but sometimes it just doesn't work out at a club. And I think that was, for me, Helder Costa at least, it just didn't work out. It'll be interesting what we get back for him. That might change the rating. How much money do we actually lose on Costa?
Imagine if they make. I think they've got an obligation to get him for 16.5. Imagine if we somehow pull that off. That would be
that would make it a better signing for sure.
No, I think you get 10 for Costa and you're buzzing. You're absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, absolutely. Carl's comment, no confidence. That he was a massive confidence player. You could see that. He really was. What about you for Costa, Connor?
Do you know what, mate? I agree with you. I think, I've been very flip-floppy with Costa. I loved him at the start. Everybody who's been on this channel will know I loved him. Like I was always like to everyone, give him a chance. He's got quality there. But then you just saw him sort of degrading. And like you said, Rafinha came in, Brownie, but it's like you got to fight a little bit. And I'd see him and it looked like the weight was on his shoulders and he cowered down a little bit and he just accepted it. He accepted Rafinha was the better player. And I don't know, I just wanted to see a little bit more from him. I think he's a little bit soft. You know, we always talk about mentality, mate. And I always say with this side, I always get a little bit worried about the fragility of some players. He was the prime example. And I think, there's a lot of people still talking, and this is the tinted glasses of where we are in the table. Oh, give Helder Costa another chance under this new guy. Absolutely no chance. No chance. Just get rid of him. Stop living on this sentiment and romanticism. We move on. We get better quality players, and that's how we move up the league.
Well, that's another conversation. Will we get better quality players?
Christ alive, you know. So, yeah. But for me, mate, what did you go for? 5?
Yeah, I can see why people are between 4 and 6.
Yeah, just for the value, I'd probably go 4. But yeah, so this guy wasn't a signing. He wasn't a signing per se. We didn't sign him for value. And by the way, guys, there is nearly 600 of you in here. You've been with us from the start. 1 hour 10. Make sure you're liking the video, please. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, of course. More content will be coming out. The debrief will be back next week. KG is ill this week, unfortunately. But Eddie Nketiah, Brownie, when Eddie came in, I was absolutely buzzing. It's almost, do you not think it's weird? I think right now we couldn't do with an Eddie because Eddie's not the type of player that could come in and I don't think make a difference in this side. We saw that starting and all this sort of stuff. But it's almost like right now you need a player of Eddie's caliber to be able to challenge Bamford. And I thought we got that quite right, just in terms of the caliber of play. You know, he's an Arsenal loanee, a lot of potential there. I was going on loads of Arsenal channels and they wanted to know how Eddie's doing this, that and the other. And now we've just got a kid in Joe Gelhardt, but we don't have that competition for Patrick Bamford. And I think that's where we're really missing out. But we had that perfect blend, didn't we, of Eddie really pushing Bamford. And I think that helped Bamford as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the time he was here, I think he was great for us. He scored some big goals. I remember the Preston away one later on.
Huge goal.
Scored a late one at Barnsley. I know he won 2-0 in the end, but he broke the deadlock.
Brentford at home, mate. Pontus's first game back.
Yeah, 1-0. For me, I've always said I wouldn't have him back when we had Bielsa because he just didn't fit our system. Under Marsh, we play that narrow and there's that many bodies down the middle. It could actually work if he had a big man.
I just don't think I think with Marsh, he's always coming off the bench, isn't he? Because mate, I'll be honest, I look at Joe Gelhardt and I still think he's a better player than Eddie Nketiah.
Absolutely.
You know?
For me, Nketiah, for what he did in the short space of time, you've got to be looking around a 7 at least.
Yeah.
Didn't cost us much. He was only here for 6 months. Scored some big goals. Helped us with some points. Yeah, I'd go a 7. And this is what I've been let down with this season. That season we went up. We got him on loan. We got Ben White on loan.
Oh, you're ruining the video here, mate.
I'm not ruining the video. I'm just saying we aren't exploiting the loan market. Like we should do.
No, you're right. Yeah, you bang on. I would go.
Who's next, Connor?
I'd go with, for Eddie, I'd go with a cool 6.5 because I think a lot of people underestimate how much that pushed Bamford on. It's not just the Eddie goal effect; it's having someone behind him who pushes him on. Someone who was he signed? I can't. Let me just have a look at the sheet here. Well, he wasn't signed. He came through. But we're not going to touch on him. I think, no, we'll touch on him. Okay, well, we'll touch on the guy who you were speaking on, Brownie, Illan Meslier. Now, for me, I know what potentially what you're going to say, but when you look at the value, 5 million, clearly going to be the French national team's number 1. I think if we were to let him go now, it's him, Calvin, and Rafinha who we make lots of profit off. I think Meslier, he's only 21. I think he's had a superb season last season. I know he's made mistakes, Brownie, but I think everybody made mistakes in that Bielsa system. I think this season he's also made mistakes, but I still think he's kept us in a few games, to be quite honest with you. He's definitely culpable, definitely made mistakes, but I think when you look at his age, his potential, and the fact, mate, that we got him for less than 5 million. I mean, if you're selling Illan Meslier now, for me, you're looking at upwards 40, 45 million.
I would personally drive him anywhere he wanted for 45 million.
But you're going to get that, aren't you? You're going to get if he's going to be the French national keeper, which he is. You know, Lloris has also said that he's the next in line. We got him for 5 million.
I see loads and loads and loads of potential. I really do. I see loads of potential. But where in the Premier League? And again, we've talked about centre midfielders. We've talked about strikers. Should he be our number 1 at how young he is? No. He shouldn't. And that's again a recruitment thing. We should have an experienced keeper in the Premier League, 100%. In 5-6 years' time, you're probably right. He probably will be. At the minute, I think this season he's had a bit of a nightmare season.
Yeah.
So has a lot of players, though. So have a lot of them. A lot of them have had a nightmare season. He doesn't fill me with any confidence when the ball goes back to him. I think when he first came on the scene at Arsenal away in that FA Cup game, his kicking was unbelievable. His kicking was unbelievable. He was ping pong, passing balls all over the place. I think that's got worse.
Do you think this is a good point, though, Brownie? Just as a caveat, Meslier 9, you put a decent Premier League centre-back pairing in front of him. And what I will say is, when he's saying that, I presume Chris is saying a consistent Premier League pairing. Because, how many centre-back pairings has this guy had over the 2-year period in the Premier League?
He's had too many
it's
in front of him.
ridiculous.
He's had too many in front of him, for sure.
Yeah.
But how many other teams, if they'd conceded 65 goals or whatever it is, wouldn't question the goalkeeper? Some of them, at some point, you've got to question why. What it feels like to me, whenever a shot's at goal, it goes in.
Is that what you think? You think that at the minute? Yeah,
I do.
But what do you think when you're looking at his value and you're looking
can't line a wall up?
Over the years we've had him, you don't think he's been? Even when he came in after Kiko, I thought he was pretty solid. And then he came into the Premier League.
That's what I mean. That first, I think he has, and I think he had, like. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's bad. He's gonna be a very good goalkeeper, which again is why the rating for Meslier will be high. I'm just saying we should have a more established number one at the minute.
Okay.
And I don't think that's Mellier's fault. I think the club needs someone in to help Meslier. He's got nobody to learn off. He's got nobody older than him, which could be another reason why things have slipped a little bit. He's got nobody pushing him. The goalkeeping coach, careful what I say here. Well, he hasn't played football. Premier League goalkeeper. I'm not saying he's not a good goalkeeping coach. I don't know him. Might well be. But I'm just saying there is nobody with experience tutoring Meslier.
I think he's had a lot. I think he's had a lot to deal with, and I agree with you. I think he's had a lot to deal with on young shoulders. We forget he's been 19 to 21.
I agree, and that's not Mellier's fault. That's why I will rate Meslier highly, because I think he'll be a very, very good goalkeeper. I think the club are letting him down a little bit. That's the best way to put it. I think the club are letting him down a little bit. Yeah, because he has got huge potential, and you're right, he will be French's number one. Yeah, and I just think he's been asked to do a lot at a young age.
Yeah. So what would you give him out of 10 then? So bearing in mind we're rating the signing, not the player right now.
I'm up around 7.5 because of the potential he has got.
I would go with a 9. And that's that mate is just on the value. It's what he's given to us. I think the predicaments that he's been in have been horrendous, and he's been asked a lot. And I think hopefully in a bit more of a steady period in his career, you're going to see an absolute world beater. And I think you're going to see the French national side pretty soon.
In defence for Meslier, I'll throw another one who's young, Pascal Struijk. I think he's had a bit of a decline over the last few months as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's very similar. They're both young players, and we've conceded a lot of goals. Their confidence must be shot to bits a little bit.
Yeah, of course. And that's the thing, mate. You can't attribute it all to them. They've been through a really turbulent period. Like everybody's saying, when you've got how much that back line has changed when Mellier's been in there. It's been an absolute joke, the amount of injuries we've had. And the centre midfield, people think that our midfield's a different part of a defensive structure. It's not. The midfield is, not having Calvin Phillips in front of him as well. He's not at the spine of the team.
Yeah, you're right. The amount of centre-half pairings that he's had in front of him is not good enough. And it's right,
Brownie, we need to move on, mate. We need to move on vastly quick, because we've got a fair few to get through. Straight off the bat, Ben White for me, 10. Ben White was
10.
Yeah, 10 for me. Loan signing for a year, followed Pontus Janssen, which I don't think a lot of people talk about. Everyone was absolutely shit in their pants when Pontus Janssen was sold. When we brought in a lad from Brighton who'd been on loan at, where was he on loan? Was it Peterborough? And he'd been on loan at Newport the time before. And everyone was like, let's bring in another centre back. Let's bring in a permanent one. We didn't. We stuck with White, and that Bristol City performance. The Brownie, the lads have made a good point on the podcast. The All Stats aren't we? I completely agree. I can't remember a mistake he made. I think he was culpable sometimes in the air a little bit. But aside from that, he was unbelievable, Ben White. I'm not talking about Ben White now for Arsenal and what he was for Brighton. I'm talking about what he was for Leeds. I thought he was so good.
And isn't it saying something that our best signing was a loan one?
Yeah. He's so good, mate. Ben White for me. I
We
can't wax
all
lyrical.
knew that season he was going to play for England one day.
I don't know if we get promoted without him.
I think you're right. But he was a Rolls Royce. He was a 10, and the club should have signed him.
Joe with a huge shout. Bar Ferdinand, best centre back I've seen in the Leeds shirt. I'd have to agree.
I would agree, and I think that again, this is where the club have
Brownie never injured as well, as Michael says.
Yeah,
spot on. Played every game.
I can't disagree with the 10. The club should have made sure they got that signing over the line, because he's another one that will have humongous sell-on fee down the line. He will. He'll be England's main centre half for years to come.
And Justin, I also loved. I mean, Woodgate's one of my favourite players, but I think the only thing with Woody is a little bit of a. I know Woodgate played at a high level, played Champions League, played for Real Madrid, so he's definitely in the conversation. But I think Ben White has even shown later on down the line that he plays pretty much every single game. Did for Brighton, has done for Arsenal, and yeah, for me, what a player. So yeah,
I do agree with Paul a little bit here. But it was only a loan signing, wasn't he?
Yeah, and Northern Gorilla said, "Calm down, lads. You're forgetting how good Woodgate was when fit, or the Chief Radaby." Yeah, we were at a different level. I've not seen as much of Radaby as maybe Brownie has. Saw enough of Woodgate, but it was a spell for me. It was only really a year spell, and I was only a kid when I
think the best Woodgate. Of Radaby, though, from what you said, I think the best of Radaby was pre Ferdinand. Anyway, it wasn't post Ferdinand.
It was, yeah.
So.
Bottom. But anyway, yeah. So bet we're not here to talk about Woodgate.
I'm going to go 9.5. Purely, right. I'm a bit like Paul was. He just wasn't our player.
No, I get that. I get that completely. Okay, mate. Let's move into the Premier League season when Leeds United got promoted. So we will start with the absolute banger, the club record striker. Leeds bought him in at 29 years of age. I think the caveat is that Leeds didn't want to have a sell-on value with Rodrigo. Rodrigo was brought in to be an instant success. They weren't looking to move him on. I think Leeds' initial thought process was to keep him at the club until he retired or whatever. Bought from Valencia, 27 million, club record signing. Brownie, over to you.
This is a hard one. Probably not good enough for the value we've paid for him. Well, definitely not good enough for the value we've paid for him. No. I think we've seen a lot better of him recently, and I think that will continue under Jesse Marsch. I think he's obviously he's part of this leadership team, isn't he? So he's obviously valued in and around the dressing room, giving more responsibility. And the day he's 31 years old. 12 goals in over 40 games for 29 million. Not enough for me. But have we seen him down the middle as number 9 enough? Again, probably not. So
it was an Orta signing, that wasn't it? I don't think that was a Bielsa signing. I think
Bielsa. Where do you judge him as his position? That's where I'm struggling with, because when you say he's a number 10 and got 12 goals in 40 games, you're going, that's decent. That's very good.
Yeah.
If you judge him as a number 9,
I think Trotsky's right. If age is a massive issue. I mean, you're buying him if you're buying him and he's 18 and he's not hit that level yet, but he's scored 10, 12 goals in 40. You're thinking we've still got a real player here. But I think the problem with Rodrigo, as Trotsky said, is he's 31, nearly 32, and it's for me, mate. Now on 30 million, it's been a poor signing. He's technically gifted. I think he's clearly one of the better players. Evidently, he's clearly one of the better players, and we get him going, especially when Rodrigo and Rafa are intertwining. They're very, very good together. You can tell they're a different level. But I think Jimmy's made a good point as well. The system was definitely too much for him, and I think that's why it was a bad signing, because you have to buy players for the system. He wasn't brought for the system because he was a striker and he was playing in the number 8 role and he was asked to defend, which he couldn't do, and we got exposed so many times. But for me, I don't
think he was a Bielsa signing.
No, I don't. I think he was an Orta signing.
We've heard it coming out. Bielsa didn't want to sign this guy. Yeah. Is that off the back of that? You've spent 30 million on someone I didn't want. I don't know. We will never know. But
So
If you ask me, if you ask me at the end of the season, my scoring could be different because if he keeps us up, because he's scored some important goals this season, he's won us some big points. The last minute penalty against Wolves, the equaliser at Wolves the other night. Well, I said the other night, well, last week now.
Norwich goal.
The Norwich goal. If we stay up by 7-8 points, and they're the points, it's an unbelievable signing. Well worth the 29 million. But when you just pigeoning it to him, player, 29 million, it's not a good outcome, is it? It's not a good outlay.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right there. You're right to separate it. It's like, yeah, if he keeps us up 30 million, I'm still looking at that and going, yeah, but he's 30. And I know what everyone's saying, but when you look at his output, let's say, I know if he keeps us up, you might get that stat. You might get that stat, Brownie. You might turn around and say, well, he's played 50 games, scored 14 goals, and kept us up. But it's, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit too critical.
I'm looking at around a 4.5 to a 5. Possibly a little bit higher end of the season if he continues as he is between now and the end of the season. But
do you know what my problem is with it, Brownie? And you'll agree with this. I know you will. You've got him for 29 million or 27 to 29 million. How many better signings could we have got for half the price? Half the price. You see so many players going around in the Premier League. I mean, that was the price of Emi Buendia. Do you know what I mean? It's and he's actually shoehorned in that position, and Leeds were apparently interested in it.
The big one is Rodrigo de Paul, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's similar value,
especially with the wage as well, because Rodrigo's on a lot of money. So
it was odd. The money we sent, Benrahma,
Eze Benrahma.
You know what I mean? It was odd. It almost felt like
Bowen
back in the Premier League, we want to make an extravagant foreign marquee signing.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of bad leadership all around for me because they just wanted a name rather than what we needed.
Yeah. Right. Okay, mate. So you're giving him a 4.5. I'd agree. 4.5. Number 2, Diego Llorente, bought from Real Sociedad for 18 million. For me, I'll just give my point of view on this one straight away. I know a lot of people like Llorente. I like him. I still think he's a risky centre-back. There's no way he'd be starting for me. I think I've made that very, very clear on this channel before. He can play a long-ranging pass, don't get me wrong, but I think he's very, very culpable when he's on the ball. Still looks skittish to me. I still don't think he's 100% levelled in the system as well. And yeah, 18 million. He's had a lot of injuries. We bought him, mate, and he's barely... I mean, you look at his injury record, he's been blighted with injuries through his entire career. And to spend nearly 20 million on him, not convinced for me. I'm not sure about that one. What about yourself?
I think if he wasn't injury prone, I think you're looking at a £40 million defender. I think we got him cheap purely because of how injury prone he is. I mean, the last time he played over 30 games in a season was 2015. That's how injury prone he's been, which again, the club not doing the due diligence and realising, you know what, is he for us? But I think, I mean, I was fuming a little bit in the Wolves game when he went off. I know we were getting beat at the time, so it probably clouded my judgment. But I just thought, not again. How many times will he go off injured?
Done it three times this year, isn't it? I think he went off at Newcastle as well.
I'm looking around a 6.5 to a 7 because I think he is a very good defender. I think he's probably been our best defender over the last period of time. But the injuries just hamper him, and that's why we got him so cheap. His passing's good most of the time. 6.5, 7.
All right. I'd probably go with about a 5. Rafa. Straight off the bat for me, 10. He bought for 18 million. There's reports today suggesting that Leeds are looking, if they do offer him a contract, to get 75 million release clause in there, and that just shows how good he is, his goal contributions. If we stay up this year, it's because of him. It is because of him. I actually called it, Brownie, on that prediction video we did, which I'm going to release again, me reacting to it. The top scorer and the top assists, I said it was going to be Rafinha. I don't know. I just had a feeling for both. And he's just I think he's frighteningly good. Yeah, I think he's gone off it a little bit, but I think overall when he's been at Leeds,
he's gone off it, but he's still our best player. That says it all for me.
And he's our best player, mate, by a country. He's world class. He's world class. So
I said it last season. He's the best player I've seen at Leeds United, and I've seen us in the Champions League. And I really do. I think he could have played in that Champions League team.
I'm not sure I'm not sure if he was better than Kuhl at his pomp at Leeds. Yeah,
he's in that but that it's a conversation to be had with Rafinha or Kuhl, and that's how good he is. And I mean, there's a reason why. I mean, he's not going to be here next season. Like we need to get real, and there's a reason why Barcelona want to sign him. How it's all going down isn't ideal, but that's a completely different conversation for me. Yeah, 10.
Yeah, don't need to talk on that anymore. I think, and when you're putting him in the conversation with Harry Kuhl, there you go. Okay, mate. Next one, bought from Freiburg. Don't think we've seen a lot of him so far. German international, 26, I think he is now, which I didn't realize he was that old. Robin Koch, 13 million.
And I'm glad we're having this conversation post the Wolves game, because I thought he was very good when he went back to centre half and Levente went off, and I'd like to see him play centre half over a consistent period of time. I think he could be, given time, a very good signing for Leeds. At the minute, he's probably around a 5, possibly a 6, because we haven't seen enough of him. I want to see more of him. I do like him. I think he's good on the ball, good presence, good height. He's in the German national team. He's got to have something. I think we said it in the debrief show. I'd like to see him and Creswell together for a period of time. See how that goes. I think Strike needs a little, not rest, not breather. Just need competition back there. I think he's definitely better at centre back than he is in centre midfield. For me personally, I can see why people are going higher at 7s.
Don't think we've seen enough of him.
No, we haven't.
So you got 13 million there, and I think everybody.
Price, 13 million for a German international is a good price. So yeah, what John says, a solid 6. Possibly.
But he's not a kid. He's not a kid. I think he's 26, mate. I think he's 26 now, and he's not broken in the German side yet. That's all I'm saying. Little caveat there. I'm not hating on him. I'm just saying.
He is 25.
25. But do you know what I mean? We're talking about him as if he's breaking through, and he is really in the German side. But 25 years old, 26 this year. I don't know. Been a bit harsh, maybe.
No, I get what you're saying, but it's not like England. They don't give caps to anyone. At the minute, it feels like anybody can get a cap.
Yeah. Tell you what, though, Conor Gallagher was good the other night, wasn't it? But yeah, that's another miss. But yeah, Koch, I would probably give him. I really like Robin. I'll give him a 6.5, which is, I think, very generous.
6.5 Koch is very good.
Yeah, it's good. Good length. Okay. 900 grand from Wigan. Let's all have a laugh. 16 clubs after his signature, and Joffe was brought in, I think, to be honest. This is one of Victor's top signings, and it's one of those with the PowerPoints, wasn't it, where he went and beat a load of clubs off like he did with Eddie Nketiah. And I think, that's one thing you got to give to Orta. He's very good at the spreadsheets, and got Joffe down. I think he's. It's a top signing, isn't it?
Yeah, this could be a 10
for the value.
900 grand is a joke. 900 grand is it.
Can I just ask you one question? Because obviously you're a young footballer as well. Do you think he's, and this isn't any disrespect, but do you think at the minute there's a little bit too much pressure on him from everyone? And I can see it in the comments, people calling him king and all this sort of stuff and yada, yada, yada. Do you think maybe, and this is me included, by the way, do you think we as fans need to just simmer down on him a little bit and just let him play his football?
100%. I see a lot of people saying he should start. I'm not there yet with him.
No.
Starting.
Might not have a choice, mate.
Thought he was very good at Tottenham when he did start.
Yeah.
But, okay. When Alan Smith came on the scene, and he's the only person I can liken to him breaking through like he did, he didn't then start every game. He was very, I mean, he was competing with Viduka, Robbie Keane, and all the rest of it. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank at the time as well.
Dee's just said, yeah, we all need to calm down about our Messi Rooney love child.
I agree. I agree with him, and I don't want to call him a one-trick pony. That's the phrase that's going around in my head. He gets the ball and just runs. And the last couple of games, he's been running into dead-end alleys a little bit.
Yeah,
and it's almost as if just give him a bit of time.
It's
almost as if he feels like he has to do something because everybody does see him as this Messi, Rooney love child. And don't get me wrong, he's going to be. I personally think he'll go to the very top.
Yeah.
But what is he? 19.
He's a kid, very young.
Need to just ease him in a little bit, and I think we're doing that the right way. That's a great likeness, Tevez. Great, I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, I've not heard the Tevez one.
I've not heard that one. Great likeness. I think it's a 10 for me. Fantastic young talent. Really,
10?
really, yeah.
Yeah, I'd give him a 10. Just I think the value, the sell-on value, if Leeds were to, I don't know, hopefully not, but go down or whatever, we'd get 10 times, 20 times the value.
He surprised me. He's very good in the air. Surprised me. I thought that at Tottenham away, he was bringing things down on his chest and he was winning flick on the Norwich goal, won the header. Goal, 6'3", whatever he was at the centre half.
He's just hungry, isn't he? He's hungry.
Yeah.
Right, Brownie.
I didn't call him a one-trick pony, by the way. I'm just saying. I said I'm not calling him a one-trick pony. Everybody knows what I'm on about. He gets the ball and runs, and sometimes it comes off. And lately, it's been running into dead end. I'd like to see him around. We discussed it when he was playing with Bamford. They were both out of the box. When we were missing Bamford, Bamford was always in the middle of the box all the time. You find Joffrey outside the box a lot.
He drops deep. He drops deep a lot, doesn't he? Yeah. All right, Brownie. Let's move on to the next season. Right. Okay. So it's this season, which is happening. An awful season for Leeds, but there you go. Dan James. Now, I will go off the bat with this one, and I think this has been a poor signing. I do.
Another not needed one.
Yeah, and I'll just develop on that as well because people are going to hammer me for that because he runs around a lot. And I really like Dan James. I really like him. Anyone who comes on here, they'll know that we all do. I like his energy. He dies for Leeds United, which is what you want. It's all we want to see as fans. But I think for the amount we've paid, listen to this, Brownie. He's the fourth most expensive player Man United have ever sold, which includes the likes of Lukaku, Di Maria. It's a lot of money for Leeds to put on someone who doesn't really give any output. Let's be brutally honest. I mean, when you come into a Leeds side and you've had Ian Poveda, Helder Costa, yada yada, maybe it's a mediocre output. But when you look at the value, and this is unfortunately what we're going to have to judge him on here. This is what I'm trying to do with this. This is on Victor Orta. Bear that in mind, everyone. This is on Victor Orta, not on the player. The signing for me has been a poor one. That's a lot of money for what we've got for someone who is impressed. He's got loads better, but he runs around a lot. There's not that much impact. He has been played out of position, but you're still expecting much more for that sort of money, mate.
Yeah, it is, and I'm going to cut him a little bit of slack, as well as Harrison this season, and Rafinha a little bit. The wingers have been crossing to nobody. We've virtually played a full season without a striker. We really have. It was the biggest noticeable one was Norwich, where the wingers were getting to the byline, nobody in the box, have to check back, go again. That's last season with Harrison. It was Bamford in the middle, and he got so many goals and assists because there was a number 9 in there.
Brownie, for me, you can't buy a kid right from Manchester United for 25 million upwards, which is plus bonuses, by the way, so it's more than that. So you can't buy someone like that and still be relying on Rafinha. You can't.
I only said I was cutting him a little bit of slack.
Oh no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not criticizing you. I'm saying to just everyone in the chat. In my opinion, I think for 25, you've got to get someone who can finish, someone who can cross a ball, someone whose decision making is very good.
His end product isn't great. I mean, I remember the West Ham away game. We won in the end, but that chance before half time, where he got played in it looked uncomfortable to watch. It didn't feel, and then that's who we're playing as a 9.
Well, I don't. Did you catch the Wales game the other day?
No.
He played for Wales, and it was the exact same sort of thing. It was just panicking in front of goal. It was just a lack of composure, and you do worry with him because he's getting to that age where it's like, is the penny ever going to drop? It's almost like he's too fast for his own good. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like he's just.
Sorry, go on. I was just saying, when you said fast, it sparked a conversation I had the other day, and I was like, really? But then when you think about, someone said if he didn't have his pace, he'd be playing in non-league.
It's the Walcott argument, isn't it? It's the Theo Walcott. Remember, Theo
Yeah.
Walcott used to burn people with pace, but when it came to the composure in front of goal, a lot of Arsenal fans used to criticise him. And Dan James is the exact same. But
it's
yeah,
a hard one to gauge because he hasn't really played in his position consistently at all this season.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's been there. He's been here. He's been there. It's a really hard one to gauge. But again, the price.
Yeah.
It just wasn't needed.
No.
Everybody, we've said this so many times. Everybody in the comments, if you said what position do you want, everybody would say a centre midfielder. So to go out and buy another winger just made no sense.
I would also say Northern Griller said he's a white Aaron Lennon without the jazz. Listen, Aaron Lennon's still got output. Aaron Lennon's had output for years, and that's how you can transition that speed into output as well. It can work for you, but when Brownie, we've had Noah Lang conversations on it. Noah Lang conversations on here before, mate, where Noah Lang's going for 15 million and his market value is 15 million, and his club is willing to sell him 15 million. It's one of those things where you're spending that much money. It's a difficult one, isn't it?
I remember playing with Aaron Lennon, and it was just give him the ball because you knew something would happen. There'd be an outcome. Yeah. Leeds don't just give him the ball. Leeds give it the other winger. Leeds give it Rafinha, and something will happen. That's.
Well, yeah, I think I don't know about you, mate, but I don't think you can. I think there's a lot of people who get giddy at the fact that there's, as I've said before, energy, endeavour. There's a press there. But ultimately, we're judging Victor Orta here. And to spend that sort of money on someone who's given you those three attributes and not goals, assists consistently, it's just not good enough.
No, I get both arguments for Dan James, and that's why I'm really struggling with a rating.
You're going to go with a 5?
I could understand people saying 4, and I could understand people saying 7. There's arguments for and against. We just haven't seen enough of him we mentioned Melia with the different centre-back pairings he's had. Dan James has had God knows how many players he's played with in around. It's just been a bit of a nonsense season all round.
Is this enough for you? Is that enough on screen now? 100% always from James.
No, I want 100% from everyone.
Yeah, it's the Roy Keane thing, isn't it? You expect your players to put 100% in every game. Like that shouldn't be something that we're praising him for. You should be putting 100% in.
I will say, on the other hand, there's something I've always wanted. We've not had an option in behind for a long time. I just want to see a little bit more in product from him, and I'm still with Dan James being at Leeds. I'm still with him having a chance. I just think it's been a nonsense.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. If he's Brownie, if he's bought for 10 million, we're not having this conversation. We're not having this conversation.
Go 6.
All right, 6.
I'm going to go 6. If I'm having this same conversation this time next year, it would get lower. I want more.
Yeah, I'll go with a. As I said, I'd really like Dan James. Like I keep saying, we're basing this on value. I'd say 5.5. So. But keep getting your comments in, guys. That Dan James one triggered a lot of people. I'm sure this one will.
And it's probably been the hardest one to gauge. I can see why people are struggling to know where to go with it.
It is, yeah.
But does the price come into that for people?
Yeah, which I think it should. It should. Okay, so next one, 13.5 million from Barcelona, ex-Real Betis. It is Junior Firpo. Do you want to go first?
I'll go first. Yeah, I remember you and Cage having the conversation, and after, can't remember what game it was. It was very early on in the season, and I think I'd seen enough that I said he's no upgrade on Alioski. And a lot. I remember getting
How long ago did we literally had that chat at the start of the season, didn't we? I think we're 3-4 games in.
It was 3 or 4, might have been 5 or 6. It was within the first 7 or 8 games, and I remember getting slaughtered.
Yeah, I got hammered as well for it.
I got slaughtered for having that opinion. It was he's only just coming into that. We've lost the input going forward, and we've conceded more goals. I don't know whether we tried to adapt with wing back with our fullbacks. Like he just didn't seem to go over the halfway line at any point. You never see him arriving in the box. Yeah, he always seems to get done at the other end. So,
he's a
walking yellow card.
I don't know about you, mate. He just looks really uncomfortable. He looks really unnatural in that. I mean, against Leicester, he was decent going forward, but once again, this is the whole argument with Alioski, and people like myself used to slate Alioski for this. You can't have double standards here. You know, with Alioski, I used to slate him for not being able to defend. So I can't come on here and say, well, Junior Firpo's good at going forward, but he can't defend. But Firpo's an upgrade on Alioski. That doesn't make any sense. He's and Ethan's made a really, really good point here. The guy of yellow cards and his indiscipline, it's seriously, seriously bad. And when you play in a pressy system and you're indisciplined like that, you're in real, real danger all the time. For me, Brownie, there's been several occasions this season where I thought he's going to get sent off here. He's going to get sent off.
He's a walking yellow card, absolutely. And Nicholas there saying Alioski wasn't a left back. That for me it highlights it even more that he was better at it than the actual left back.
Yeah, it's poor, isn't it?
His positional sense. I mean, that goal against Aston Villa, was it Matty Cash? He was playing left back. He was just closer to the family stand than he was Matty Cash.
Well, do you remember the worst one I saw was, do you remember West Ham with Bowen, where he was completely out of position on that left hand side and Bowen was just by himself?
Yeah.
Salah can kill anyone, can't he? But I thought, there's some people saying he had a good game against Liverpool.
I think it's a problem that we spent 13 million
and Dallas is the better left back.
We need to, and we need to sign another left back. Yet we've spent £30 million on a left back. He's right, Dallas. I'm more happy when Dallas is left back, but then we miss him in the middle.
Yeah.
I think. I'm going. Ooh. He seems injury prone as well.
I mean, how many times is it? 4 times he's been injured this season. I mean, it's not a good sign, is it?
No.
13 million. What are your thoughts?
3.5.
Yeah.
The Man United game at home, I thought it was very good.
I thought you were going to say away then.
No, I thought it was very good. If you saw that all the time, you'd think, we've got to play it, but we don't. We've seen it once. No. 3. What about you?
I'll go with 2. Yeah, I've just not been impressed by him, mate. I don't think there's no upgrade on Alioski there whatsoever, which is poor, which is really, really poor. Okay, what else do we have left? I think we're actually coming to the end, mate. So we have Jack Harrison, bought for 11.52 million from Man City. And I think we can all agree that this is a pretty good one. Yeah.
All around from start to finish, very good. Again, I think he's had a little dip this season, but like I said with Dan James, I'm giving the wingers a little bit of slack because we've had no striker. And at the end of the day, wingers are judged on crossing the ball into the box. Well, if there's nobody in the box, what are they crossing it to? All round Harrison for me, 7.5. 7.5. Had a very good season last year in the Premier League. Age is good. Still very young. 7.5, pushing an 8. His consistency this season's been a problem, which is why it's probably a lower 7.5.
You know as well, mate, how much he frustrates me, but I think that's how much potential he's got. What he needs to eradicate from his game is, he makes the mistake and he looks up into the sky and starts screaming. That's he needs to eradicate those little aspects from his game and just get a little bit more consistent. I think in some areas, because when he's on point, his crossing's very, very good, but he
does chip in with goals. He does chip in with goals. He really does.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll give Harrison we'll give him a 7. Yeah, I think that's a good signing. Okay, there's a lot of people asking about Jean-Kevin Augustin. We're not going to go through that, guys. I mean, he barely played a minute for Leeds. There's absolutely no point. We're trying to keep this on players that have played. There's Crescencio Somerville, obviously Cody Drame, but there's no real point, I don't think, in highlighting these guys at the minute because they've not had enough minutes for Leeds United. So, Brownie, we're going to come to the final.
I think he was the worst one, though.
Who's that?
Jean-Kevin Augustin.
Well, Christ, yeah. We'll find out, won't we? So, yeah. Okay, so the final question, and this is what he's going to be judged on this summer, but from what you've seen so far, mate, and everybody in the comment section, Victor Orta, flop or not? I think it's a tough one, isn't it? Because I think he's got so many. I think getting Marcelo Bielsa to Leeds United, you can sign your Chibikis, your Ekubans, your whatever, but that almost eradicates it all, doesn't it? And I know he's had a little bit of a lucky one in terms of getting Bielsa, but he still had to get Bielsa, and that was the key for what Leeds United are today.
For me, him, Kinnear, Radrizzani, they came to get us promoted.
Yeah.
And they got us promoted. So it has to be a very begrudgingly at the minute or not, because they did what they've come to do.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of signings, a flop, 100%. I think we discussed it. I think there was 67 altogether, and I gave 27 a tick. That's not good enough. That, again, feels like chucking signings and hoping some work out. Less than a third being good signings isn't good enough. It's a hard one. I can see people going either way on this. I'm only at the or not slightly because of them getting us promoted, and let's be right, lots have come and failed to do that. They got us where they are. Flipping it round, I've heard a lot of, Bielsa didn't want to sign him. Bielsa didn't want to sign him. Bielsa didn't want to sign him. If we don't make signings in the summer, I never want to hear again, Bielsa didn't want to sign him, because Bielsa's gone now. We struggled with good signings before Bielsa, and now Bielsa's gone. I don't want to hear that. Bielsa didn't want him, because I think it's a cop-out, to be honest. Yes, Bielsa probably did say no to some players, but when you've got a record of 27 out of 67 being good, I'm not surprised. Yeah, I agree that I think Dan James was a Bielsa signing, and that's a problem. So I think recruitment-wise, Bielsa or all of them have got to take some accountability. That flop or not will turn to a flop if this summer we go down the route of what he's apparently come out and said of, we're just gonna go with youth and add one or two. No, that this club needs signings.
Yeah, big time. Big time. I'd agree with Brownie there. I think I'm like Brownie. I'm on the or not, because I think what he's given us by getting Marcelo and by bringing in some of the top talent that we have. When you look at players like Rafinha, Robin Koch, Ilan Meslier, players of that ilk, they're still very, very good when you look at recruitment. And overall, we're probably going to make more than what we've lost in terms of recruitment, if you get what I mean. But I would say this is the do or die summer for him. This is the most important summer of his career. It's the most important summer of Leeds United's career. Kinnear's, Radrizzani, the 49ers. I mean, they have to get this summer right. Otherwise, I agree with Brownie. If Leeds make one or two signings and we keep the nucleus of the squad, we keep it as it is, boys in the club, unfortunately, you can have as many players back. We'll have Calvin back. Hopefully, we'll have Paddy back. But you'll have lost Rafinha. I think we're all realising that he's going to leave this season. You have to buy players in for Jesse Marsh. You have to buy players in for that system. Top quality players if you can. Less of a risk. And he has to do that, or ultimately Leeds United are going to get relegated next year. And it's going to be like, do you remember when we went down, Brownie? But the year before, we beat Arsenal away 3-2 and we stayed up. And Man United won the league and we stopped Arsenal from winning it. Then we went down the next season. That is going to happen. If we don't add 4 or 5 top bodies and get rid of some out of this club, Leeds are going to be in the relegation zone next year. And this is just a ticking time bomb. They have to get it right in the summer.
Yeah, I completely agree. The summer's massive, and there's no excuse for not signing in the summer. I don't get why we wouldn't, especially if Rafinha's going for 50, 60, 70 million. You got the Premier League money coming in, and we didn't really improve last year. We just replaced. So this summer, for me,
Exactly. Yeah.
there has to be good quality players coming to the club. We have to see the money being reinvested from Rafinha. I don't want to hear, oh, we're building on the West Stand. I don't want to hear that. The club needs signings.
Yeah. Yeah, because because I mean, yeah, as I said, it's going to be once again, it's going to be a really tough Premier League again next year, and if you don't sign, you get left behind, and that's the way of the world, unfortunately, in the top division.
And people will go, well, flop. It'd have been a flop if we hadn't got promoted. Well, we did. At the end of the day, that regime did get us promoted, but if they do also send us down, then it changes back to flop, doesn't it? It's a result.
I mean, Brownie even replacing Rafinha. I mean, I'm talking about, because I don't think we're going to replace him like for like in terms of winger. I think we're going to they'll probably bring in Aronson in terms of that Rafinha replacement and hopefully spend elsewhere. But even replacing Rafinha, replacing those goals and replacing his impact is going to be, a lot of people just saying, I don't mind if Rafinha goes. Well, to replace his impact on this Leeds United side, you are looking for a special player. So if we can't find one player to do that, i.e. a Brendan Aronson, which it's very unlikely that he's going to come in and replicate that impact, you're going to have to get 3 or 4 bodies in and around who are going to be able to replicate and improve on those outputs, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all in agreement that this summer it's huge for Leeds. I mean, you hear we're going for Europe. You're not if you're not buying players. The squad at the minute is scraping to stay in the Premier League, and if you take out their best player, then there's only one player going. The squad needs signings. It really does. So yeah, been an interesting summer. I hope to see some money spent, but it's got to be the right players. I'm not saying just go out and spend money for the sake of it.
No,
It's got to be the right players. It's got to be the right players in the right positions that we need. We can't have another transfer window of no centre midfielder. We can't have another transfer window of no centre forward.
No. I'll tell you what, mate. It's been 2 hours. I've never been on a stream this long. So I think we should leave it as it is. I'm gonna have to get some tea. We started, I think, at about we came on at 6:30. So, mate, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys have thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, make sure you hit the like button as well. Keep getting your comments in the section below. It's good. I think a lot of people are going to rewatch this as well, so make sure you do so. As I say, hope you've enjoyed. Make sure you slap a like on it. Brownie, thanks so much for joining me, pal.
No, it's been good. It's been a bit of a trip down memory lane, hearing some of them names, and
yeah,
it just does show where we've come from. So
definitely, mate.
It hasn't all been bad.
Definitely. Right, guys, have a great evening and a great rest of the week, and we will see you in a bit. Cheers.